Historians say the first oil discovery in Oklahoma was made by a man named Lewis Ross in 1859 in Indian Territory. From that day forward, fossil fuels have become an increasingly important part of our state's economy. Now, Oklahoma appears well equipped to become a leader in producing green energy sources like hydrogen power. Reporter Steve Shaw explains why.
Hydrogen is the most plentiful thing in the world. It's made with either natural gas or water. And when you make it using just water and either solar or wind power, it's considered clean energy. President Biden has ordered a 50% reduction of carbon emissions by the year 2030. Carbon emissions are waste created when burning fossil fuels like coal, crude oil, or natural gas.
We're one of only 4 states that gets more than 40% of its power made by renewable resources, and we're actually closer to 50% at this point.
Renewable resources being?
Wind, hydroelectric power, and a growing solar portfolio.
Oklahoma's Secretary of Energy and Environment, Kenneth Wagner, is part of a statewide task force that 2 months ago began studying how the Sooner State can take advantage of a changing energy landscape.
There's a belief that hydrogen will be highly in demand in the next decade. And so there are people that are starting to make it. And one of the ways they're starting to make it is, in Oklahoma, we have a lot of excess wind energy, meaning at times where the wind is blowing heavily and it's not peak demand. So there's no need for that energy at that point. So the making of hydrogen allows the use of that energy at a very low cost, and you can lower the cost of making hydrogen. And the idea is that hydrogen becomes almost a battery, right? Because you take that excess power that would be lost to the grid, you make hydrogen, so you store that energy in hydrogen, and it's an excellent vehicle to do that. So think of it as a large battery.
We're all familiar with electric vehicles. Wagner calls them EVs. They generate a very small amount of pollution compared to gas, but they're limited because electric vehicles must be recharged every 300 to 400 miles. Wagner says hydrogen offers an intriguing possibility, especially in the mammoth over-the-road trucking industry.
A hydrogen fuel cell added to that same battery EV. Most people don't understand that a hydrogen fuel cell is, there are several ways they work, but one is an onboard charging system for a battery EV. And so that if you put hydrogen tanks and a hydrogen fuel cell on, the range of that same truck would increase to about 950 miles.
Wagner says the current presidential infrastructure bill set aside $10 billion for hydrogen demonstration projects and hydrogen transportation hubs. Ding, ding, ding.
How do we utilize and make sure that we have fueling infrastructure? We've got some of the greatest, the greatest truck stops in America with Love's based right here. My belief is that they're looking at hydrogen for refueling trucks into the future. They are certainly a player in all things trucking when it comes to over-the-road trucking. We are trying to position ourselves to make as spirited and credible play for a hydrogen distribution hub, regional hub here in Oklahoma. And we think, we're one of the few states that can do it all. I mean, both the renewable energy and the low-cost natural gas way of doing it.
And you'll put in multiples of these. Each one of these will hold 75 to 80,000 cubic feet.
Ron Mercer is president of Bedrock Gas Solutions in Edmond. He's also a member of the Energy Task Force. Right now, he's working with the University of Oklahoma on a patented project he calls the Bedrock Underground Storage Pod.
And it will hold either methane or natural gas, or it can be adapted to hold hydrogen. And that's the effort that we have engaged in with the university to explore the mechanics of storing hydrogen. It's a difficult element to work with.
The biggest hurdle with hydrogen is it's basically twice as expensive to make if you're making it with water and not natural gas.
Well, yeah, obviously the price has got to get down, and just like with the renewables, the cost of renewable energy has dropped dramatically since it was really started to be pushed 5 years ago. In that short period, we've had a significant decrease in the cost of renewables. Now, anyone that really wants to dive into the weeds is going to bring in the economic support from the federal government and the subsidies that are received for wind energy, and solar. But generally speaking, the cost of the product, just to buy a wind generator, has dropped significantly over the past few years.
Mercer and Wagner both believe producing hydrogen here can benefit both the renewable energy sector and gas and oil.
Well, they could. They're still trying to iron out the wrinkles and all of that and the relationships there. But yeah, there's opportunity for common ground to be found between the two industries for sure.
I'm a big believer in it since I came in, to obviously to toe that line between renewables and the oil and gas industry is, we don't have to make it to where one takes from the other. That if we increase demand for everybody, then that pie just gets bigger, and that's really what the governor wants to do, and hydrogen represents an opportunity there to expand the market share and the use for all these resources.
Wagner says he'll turn the task force findings over to the governor on December 1st.
We're environmental leaders. We've reduced our emissions in the power sector at 3 times the national average. Why did we do that? Because we have this great portfolio of renewable energy. And why does it work so well in Oklahoma where it doesn't in other states? Because we have low-cost natural gas that can chase that wind when it's not blowing or the sun when it's not shining and generate power at a same or similar low cost. We are the most affordable state for power in the country.
Steve Shaw, the Oklahoma News Report.